Sup punks, my name's Zoe. I'm currently blocking all coal trains going into or out of the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. I'm taking this action on Awabakal and Worimi country in the Hunter Valley. This land was stolen over 250 years ago in a war started by the colonising empire, and that war continues today. I pay my respects to elders and warriors and resistant fighters past, present and emerging that have been fighting against Australia's destruction of land, people and culture since it started. Sovereignty was never ceded, and the struggle for climate justice has been going on this continent since Australia started, over 250 years ago. So where I'm at the moment is on top of an electrical pylon. I'm sitting on a sit that's been tensioned from a monopole on the railway. You can see over there, there's a rail worker that's arrived. They were kicking the pole earlier. That rail bridge is one of the most significant economic bottlenecks of the coal network in the world. The Newcastle coal port is the world's largest coal port, and as I've proven this morning, one person can successfully immobilise a piece of critical infrastructure with a bit of rope and metal poles. Actions like this is what's required to get in the way of Australia facilitating the destruction of all life on this continent and across the globe. For the past however many decades, we've seen that voting doesn't work. This political system is rigged against climate action, and the only way of stopping Australia from killing the world is to materially disrupt the things that are important to it. I'm taking this action this morning not because coal is bad, even though coal is pretty bad, and not because Newcastle is, the Newcastle port is a land desecrating operation that's been operating on stolen land for over 100 years. I'm also taking this action because the Newcastle coal port is a piece of infrastructure that's critical to the Australian economy and to the operations of Australia. And direct action like this, the tactics that I'm using today are a modified form of tree sit, can be used to intercept and wield real and relevant political power against Australia at sites that matter to it. I might just turn the camera around and show you the bridge. So yeah, that rail bridge provides access to all inbound ports to the Kooragang Island coal terminal in Newcastle coal port. The port's over that way. Sorry, my hat's just a bit stuck on the rope. So the Newcastle port exports around, I think, like 120 million tonnes of coal a year. Maybe it's 160 million tonnes of coal a year. There's two terminals. One's owned by Port Waratah Coal Services, and one's owned by it's BHP is part of it, and it's the NCIG, the Newcastle Coal Infrastructure Group. Both of those are multi-billion-dollar corporations that pay hardly any tax, and they dig up the earth and shuffle it across this continent and overseas and offshore. And operations like that are things that Australia's doing all the time, without us really paying attention to the violence and the destruction underneath its facade of being a liberal, functioning democracy. Someone's just asked me in the comments how high up I am. I don't know, maybe 17 meters? I'm not too sure. I think probably 17-ish. It's pretty high. I won't show you the ground. It's not very interesting. So I'm taking this action today under the banner of Blockade Australia. You can't see my banner. It's very long and narrow. But it says Blockade Australia. And yeah, this is a call for everybody to take the global existential threat that we're facing seriously, and to use the tools and tactics that we have available to us to get in the way and engage in the political arena in a way that forces Australia to pay attention. I guess Blockade Australia is advocating for using blockading tactics to immobilise and shut down sites of political and economic importance. So that's why this morning I've shut down the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. With a modified version of a tree sit. Yesterday there was another action on the rail line by somebody who was also wearing the banner of Blockade Australia, a First Nations man. In June next year, Blockade Australia proposes to shut down Sydney, which is functionally the economic and political capital of Australia. It's the original city. It's where this mass destruction operation began, and by shutting down, Sydney, the biggest city, it forces Australia to pay attention to what most of the people living on this continent want, which is real action on climate. We want Australia to stop killing the world. It's pretty simple. When I talk about Australia, I guess it might be a confusing framing. I'm not really talking about the continent or the landmass itself or the culture of like mateship or whatever people associate with the word Australia. I'm talking about the political and economic system. Australia is essentially a conglomeration of powerful institutions that have been sustaining militarized occupation on stolen land for over 250 years since it started. And those industries include things like big business, extractive industry, fossil fuel companies, weapons manufacturing companies that start wars over resources and lands that have nothing to do with them all across the globe. It's also Parliament, and collectively those institutions are driving the climate collapse. They are digging up the earth until there's nothing left. They're polluting the sky, they're emptying the oceans, and they're doing it all in the guise of what's necessary. They're doing it all in the guise of striving for economic growth and progress and technological advancement. And none of those things are sustainable. Nothing about how this continent is being run at the moment is sustainable. There has been sustainable land management on this continent for millions and millions of years before, white European settlers arrived here, before the first fleet, which was accompanied by two British warships in 1788, arrived here in Sydney and started a war against First Nations people and culture that continues today. We just don't need to do any of that. We don't need to dig up the earth until there's nothing left. We need to turn around and run in the opposite direction as fast as we can, because unless we do, there's no chance of a livable future. COP's happening at the moment in Glasgow. There was a lot of controversy about whether ScoMo was going to be attending or not. I don't know, there's lots of stuff I could say about ScoMo, but I'm not going to. I guess, to me, Australia's participation in global summits like COP are a distraction. It makes it seem like we're, participating or playing the game or taking this seriously, when in actuality, no policy can hold one of the most brutal empires in all of human history to account. There's the rules and the laws that govern Australia, that govern, global summits like COP. They don't really do anything compared to a nation state that only cares about money and only cares about digging up the earth and viewing it as a resource extraction site, and owns heaps of guns and ships and can basically write legislation that says that it's legal to continue to kill the earth and continue to kill people and continue to destroy culture. So I think COP is a distraction. Australia tried to, in the Paris Agreement, when that happened, Australia tried to break their Paris Agreement commitments, and it was all very calculated manipulation of paperwork and of statistics, and the same thing happened with the Kyoto Protocol. So it doesn't really matter what happens at COP. It doesn't matter if Australia announces a net zero emissions by 2050 target, which is a death sentence, because it won't stick to that, and nothing will happen when it doesn't stick to that. We're all being sidetracked by the facade of a liberal functioning democracy that Australia's showing us all this image of peace and prosperity and growth that doesn't actually exist and is hiding a much darker and much more violent series of operations and interests. Australia was designed as a resource extraction site. When the colonizing empire arrived here, they encouraged the political elite to basically, expand across the continent and extract and exploit land and labour. They assigned convicts as labourers to the people who paid, and while they were doing that, also destroyed the lives and land and culture of First Nations people. Australia did that. The colonising empire did that to grow Australia as a resource hub in the eyes of the global economy. And that's what it's designed to do. And ever since that point, the same people that owned the warship and, controlled the expansion of extraction and exploitation across this globe, they wrote the laws, they wrote the rules that govern power on this continent. They make it legal for big business to not pay any tax. They make it legal for Australia to manipulate their way out of binding protocols at global summits. And they make it legal for Australia to make, weapons that they then use to kill Indigenous people in lands all across the globe. There's no fighting this system from within the system. There's no solution to the climate collapse within a system that was designed to basically perpetuate it. Just noticing a few more people have jumped onto the live stream. I might just give an update of where I am and what's been happening. And there's some really nice birds in the sky too, if you want to have a look. It's pretty cool. I'm Zoe. I'm currently about 17 meters in the air up an electrical pylon on basically a tree sit that's been tensioned to a monopole on the railway line. I'm standing on the sit at the moment, just having a look, and there's a banner that's attached to the sit that is a bit difficult to show you. I've stopped all coal chains at the Newcastle coal port, which is the world's biggest coal port. I can show you the view. And I'm taking this action today because Australia only cares about money, and this bottleneck that I'm currently blocking, this rail bridge that goes over the Hunter River, is the most significant economic bottleneck of the coal network in the world. Basically I'm showing that one person can effectively immobilise a piece of infrastructure that is critical to the Australian economy, and critical to there's a lot of people that have arrived over there. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. A few rail workers all in high vis over there, which is good. There was somebody who was over here before kicking the pole. I told them that my life was suspended on it, so I hope they don't do that again. So this rail bridge provides access to all coal chains going into the Kooragang coal terminal in Newcastle. So the port's that way, there's two terminals. I'm blocking it with a modified version of a tree sit that's tensioned to a monopole on the railway line. So the Newcastle coal port provides, is the largest thermal coal exporting port in the world. Takes coal from all across the Hunter Valley and ships it all across the globe. I think it exports about 165 million tonnes of coal a year between the two terminals. And basically there's coal chains that run along this rail network more than, one every 10 minutes I'd say. And I've been up here for a little while now and hopefully stay for a bit longer. I think yesterday the person who was also taking action as part of Blockade Australia blocked the rail line for around 4 hours. So it only takes one person to immobilise a piece of infrastructure this big for an extended period of time. Highly disruptive actions like this are a way of effectively engaging in politics in a way that forces Australia to pay attention, because Australia doesn't care about your vote. There's no way of voting ourselves out of this mess. Australia is not going to act on climate just because people put a bit of pen on a bit of paper in a ballot box. Australia was built to exploit. Australia will keep digging up the earth until there's nothing left unless we get in the way of it. So today I'm taking action as part of Blockade Australia. And the reason that I'm blocking the world's biggest coal port is not just because it's, you know, an operation that's been destroying land and lives around the Hunter Valley and on stolen Awabakal and Worimi country, but also because it's a target that's critically important to Australia. It's something that Australia cares about a lot. It's a piece of infrastructure that's critical to its economic functioning and its political functioning. And it's only actions like this that disrupt the things that Australia cares about that are going to get us anywhere. It's the only way for us to wield relevant power in the eyes of the nation state of Australia, because any change that we try and force within the system is doomed to fail. There's no, waiting for a climate election is out of the option at this point in time. And yeah, it always will be and always has been. There's so many comments. So scary, but it has to be done. Yeah, it is pretty scary. I'm definitely feeling scared. I'm feeling a bit vulnerable. I'm also feeling pretty powerful. Like I said, it only takes one person to shut down the world's biggest coal port. That's pretty cool. Yeah, if you're also keen to feel scared and vulnerable and powerful, come join us in Sydney on the 27th of June. We're going to shut down the city where Australia started for a week using highly disruptive actions like these. Yeah, Sydney is functionally the economic and political capital of Australia. It's, you know, a site of really great cultural importance as well as the original city. And yeah, we're going to shut it down using blockading tactics. So come get involved, come learn how to climb and do actions like this. Yeah, it'd be sick to see you there. It doesn't take, sorry, I was just talking before about how yesterday somebody else took action under Blockade Australia on a tripod, and they blocked trains for 4 hours. And you know, I've been up here for a little while. It's a bit hard to tell how long, I don't really know, but it takes one person to cause hours and hours of disruption. So we don't need thousands of people to bring, you know, corporate and institutional Australia to its knees. We need, you know, a few hundred super committed people, and we need to learn how to go after targets that are important to Australia, because that's the way that we can wield the most significant and relevant power in the eyes of the state, and that's how we can force action on climate and force Australia to stop killing the world, because otherwise it will continue to use and destroy everything until there's nothing left. I'm just gonna try and get a bit of water and maybe sit down, because I've been standing up for a little bit and it might be a bit tricky because I don't want to drop my phone. So you're going to get this good angle for a bit while I sit down. Oh, cool. Oh yeah, you can see the link in the comments for the Sydney action. You should go click going, share it and invite all your friends. And if you want to get involved before that, message the page and yeah, maybe someone will tell you how. Sorry about this terrible angle. Oh, that's risky. I don't know when I should show you the view again. I don't know if anyone new's signed in. Maybe I will. If you have just signed in, I'm Zoe. I'm currently about 17 meters up an electrical pylon, and I'm blocking all coal trains going into the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. The rail bridge over there is the bridge that provides access to all trains going into the port. And yeah, the Newcastle port being the biggest coal port in the world makes this one of the most significant economic bottlenecks of the coal network across the globe. And today, yeah, I'm shutting it down by myself with some rope and a bit of metal on the tracks. Show us the setup when you're comfortable. Okay, yeah. So I'm sitting on this tree sit platform, which is another bit of metal, and oh, there's a lot of ropes. They're a bit tangled. Yeah, so the tree sit is on this bit of rope, which is then tied to the top of that monopole on the tracks, and it's been tensioned with 4 other bits of rope. So if anything happens to that pole, yeah, I'm probably gonna fall, and it's not gonna be a very good day. So hopefully that doesn't happen, and hopefully no coal trains try run me over today. I think that's something I'd like to talk about a bit, is yeah, why chosen to use tactics like this. I think at this current point in time, for someone like me, in this on this continent and the political system we live in, actions like this mean that I can, you know, shut down the world's biggest coal port and shut down something that's super important to the interests of Australia and the interests of the state that's killing us, whilst I guess facing probably likely limited legal repercussions. There's, you know, a lot of other people resisting far worse oppressive systems across the globe that would be killed for doing actions like this. There's people on this continent who would face far harsher repression for resisting Australia. And yeah, I guess that's why today I'm taking action, because something needs to be done, and at the moment it seems like this is a pretty effective way of wielding power in a way that means I can, you know, continue to organise against the operations of a government that is destroying us. Sorry, that wasn't very coherent. Oh, thanks. Everyone's saying such nice things. I was looking at the Newcastle Coal Port website the other day, and they had a acknowledgement of traditional owners on the website, and I thought that was really interesting that they, you know, acknowledged and paid their respects to the traditional owners of the land that they were literally destroying. I think that's something that really proves the point of Australia, you know, using this facade of you know, functionality and peace and prosperity and choice and democracy and, I don't know, freedom, while underneath it's doing all this really awful destruction of everything. Yeah, I think things like that just really prove the point of us, unless we're, you know, super critically challenging the things that we're hearing and thinking about the way that, you know, we've been taught to engage in politics and engage with change. It's super easy to be distracted by a system that is designed to distract us from what meaningful political action could really look like. Yeah, I think there's lots of other things like that, like voting as well. Like, Australia lets you vote so that you feel like you're effectively engaging in the political arena, and that you're feeling like you have a say about your future and what happens to you, but in actual fact you're not. And in actual fact, the only way of wielding relevant power against Australia and forcing it to do anything in the interests of the people and country is to, you know, get in the way and shut down the things that are important to Australia. Someone asked me what's a monopole. A monopole is just like a big piece of metal pole that stands by itself. So yesterday there was an action that was a tripod, and I think tri means 3 and mono means 1, so that's probably where that came from. Yeah, there's a monopole, a one piece of metal pole on the rail line, and that's what I'm attached to on this sit. So yeah, it's a bit precarious, I guess. It's going to take a lot of work to get me down safely. Yeah, there's no police that have arrived yet. I think the police, I don't know, it's probably going to be a bit hard for them to try get in. I'm in the middle of the Hunter wetlands on Awabakal and Worimi country. It's actually, yeah, really beautiful. The land's kind of, I guess, healing itself after being, you know, killed and used for farmland for years and years. So yeah, it's pretty nice to see, but it means the roads are a bit muddy and stuff. So yeah, Blockade Australia is an organising network that, you know, is advocating for action that disrupts and goes after the things that are important to Australia, and advocates for using blockade tactics as a political tool to force action on climate, or to, yeah, get in the way of Australia from blocking action on climate, because Australia will do everything to block action on climate. Australia was designed to exploit. Yeah, basically when the colonising empire arrived here, they viewed this whole continent as a resource extraction site. The only thing that it was good for was, you know, digging up the earth and making money from it. So when your system's been created and been designed to facilitate that kind of mindless exploitation, there's nothing, there's nothing you can do from within that system that will be significant enough to force the changes necessary for survival. So instead, we have to do it ourselves. We have to think outside of the box, outside of the things that we've been told by the system, and take actions like this that actually go after and disrupt the things that are important to Australia. Might just turn this around again and show you the rail bridge. So that rail bridge provides all access to the coal port on Kooragang Island. Yeah, it provides access to all inbound and outbound trains actually. So no coal trains can come into or leave after they've finished unloading the ports. And because the Newcastle coal port is the world's biggest coal port, that rail bridge is one of the most significant economic bottlenecks of bottlenecks of the coal network across the globe. And yeah, today I've shut it down with just me, really. Yeah, so I'm currently on a tree sit up an electrical pylon, and I am on a bit of a metal platform that's been tied to the top of a monopole on the tracks. I've just realised I've left the line that the sit is attached to, so it's attached up the top, but it's not attached to anything down the bottom, and there's heaps of it hanging loose, and I'm a bit worried that if the police arrive they'll, I don't know, try and meddle with it. So I'm just going to pull it up while you're all here. It's a bit hard with one hand. So you'll get this good angle again. And you can see in the comments that somebody's put the link to the Sydney event. So in Sydney next year in June, we're going to, Blockade Australia is going to organise a week of highly disruptive actions like this. Going on. Just stop talking and sort everything out. Thanks. Cool. Hopefully that's working now. Hi everyone, if you just signed in. My name's Zoe. I've currently blocked all coal trains going into or coming out of the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. I'm on a metal platform about 17 metres in the air, and the metal platform is tied to a monopole, which is a singular metal pole on the rail line, blocking the rail bridge. I'll just turn the camera around so you can see that. So yeah, that bridge provides access to both of the biggest terminals as part of the Newcastle port on Kooragang Island. So no trains can go into the port or leave the port after they finished unloading at the moment. I'm taking this action today as part of Blockade Australia. Blockade Australia as, I guess, a noun and also a, indicative to invite you to also come and blockade Australia, because the use of blockading tactics like this at locations that are, critical to the functioning of Australia's political and economic system have the capacity to let us wield real political power and force actual change on climate and sorry, I'll just get the camera to focus. So I guess the Newcastle port is, operation that's been destroying the land here for over 100 years. It's been destroying stolen Awabakal and Worimi country and destroying the lives and culture of those people as well. And the reason I'm taking this action is because of that, and also because it is a target that is really important to Australia. It's really important to its economic functioning. And this rail bridge that I've shut down today with the sit and the monopole provides all access for coal trains going into the port. And because the Newcastle port is the world's biggest coal port, it's effectively one of the most significant economic bottlenecks of the coal network across the world. So actions like this that cause extended periods of disruption, hopefully aiming for a few hours of disruption to the functioning of the rail today, action that materially disrupts Australia and the ongoing operations of exploitation and extraction and destruction, has the capacity to be used as a political tool against Australia. Oh, Marky said, destroy your phone as coal is needed to make it. Oh, I haven't heard that one before. What are you doing about Australia killing the world, Marky? What a name. I think at times like this, we just experienced a global pandemic, and we saw the way that Australia dealt with crisis. We saw the way that our government responded to, hundreds and thousands of people being sick and dying, and it wasn't very good. I don't think anybody's very happy with the way that Australia or most other nation states handled the pandemic. I was reading something the other day that said that billionaires got like 54% richer during the pandemic. And I think that really goes to show how rigged the economic system is. While everybody was stuck, at home, people were kicked out of their jobs and couldn't work for ages, and it really affected families across Australia and across the globe. Big business and fossil fuel and extractive industry continued to dig up the earth, continued to shuffle corrupt money across stolen land, continued to kill the world and profit off it. Climate collapse is here, and COVID was just a practice run. things are going to get a lot worse. Things are already pretty bad for a lot of people. This year alone there was like dozens and dozens of climate related disasters per month. Every year in, you know, bushfire season, families experience, you know, extreme trauma and hardship, having to deal with the loss of lives and loved ones. And yeah, you know, the ocean was on fire earlier this year, the Gulf of Mexico. The Amazon rainforest has been on fire. China has flooded. Somalia was flooding. There were monsoons in India and heat waves in Canada at the same time, and Texas was flooding. There were wildfires in Arizona, and you know, it might be pretty easy to ignore some of the things going on across the globe when our lives are so comfortable. But that doesn't, just because it's not happening to us doesn't mean that it's not real. And Australia is a climate criminal. Australia is responsible for a lot of these crises that are happening across the globe. Yeah, Australia digs up the earth and exports it to, you know, other big rich states or businesses in places where there's people far worse off than here. Australia starts wars over resources and land all across the globe, and then when people come to Australia seeking safety, they turn it down. Australia is and always has been the bad guy, and Australia will continue to do whatever it wants unless an organised opposition gets in its way. So that's why I'm here today, getting in Australia's way, because I don't think there's any other way of fighting for a livable future at this current point in time. Yeah, Australia's killing the world and no one else is coming to save us. Blockade Australia is a way of getting in the way of Australia's destruction, essentially. Yeah, the reason that I'm blocking the world's biggest coal port isn't just because of coal, and isn't just because of extractive industry being an evil enterprise that's killing the world. It's also because it's a target that is super essential to the things that Australia cares about. And we can use actions like this, we can use blockading tactics as a political tool to force Australia to stop destroying everything on this continent. Yeah, so I think that maybe I'll talk a little bit more about why this spot in particular, the rail bridge that I'm blocking at the moment, that, yeah, I've already said is the world's most significant bottleneck of coal across the globe, of the coal network across the globe. It's a really accessible pinch point in the supply and demand chain, and you know, strategic use of blockading tactics at points like this is a really effective and accessible way of engaging in politics in a way that wields relevant power. And when I say that, I mean it wields power against Australia in a way that Australia is forced to respond. When we vote, when we tick a little bit of paper on a ballot box, Australia isn't forced to do anything. I think a lot of forms of protest have become about as redundant as that as well. I think that if you go to a rally and you hold a sign on the side of the road, Australia can ignore what you're doing. Even if you're really angry about climate change, Australia doesn't care about you, or, yeah, your feelings, or your vote, or your sign on the side of the road. We need to materially disrupt the things that it cares about, and the things that it cares about are things like the world's biggest coal port. Yeah, maybe I'll talk a bit more about, oh, hang on, there's so many more comments. Thank you so much, everyone's saying such lovely things. Yeah, I'm pretty nervous. Greenpeace released a research booklet a few years ago, I think it was like 2018, where they investigated the connections between the coal industry and Parliament and the media monopoly, the Murdoch media monopoly, which I think controls about 60% of the Australian newspaper. Australian newspapers and other, you know, media sources. And I think they found out like the 31 people that worked in the in ScoMo's office or something. Most of them had ties to the coal network in some way or another. I think that two of ScoMo's speechwriter, can't remember his name, he's the ex-writer of the Courier Mail, and I think I wrote some other things down actually, because I was so shocked by this when I read it. I think it really proved all the other stuff that I'm rambling on about. So maybe some hard facts might, wake you up this morning and get you ready to also participate in disruptive direct action against Australia. It was Matthew Fynes Clinton. I did write that down. I don't know if he's still Scott Morrison's speechwriter, but he used to be. He used to work at the Courier Mail, and we all know the Courier Mail is notorious for its climate denialism. John Kunkel and Yaron Finkelstein are ScoMo's most powerful advisors, and both of them used to be deputy CEOs of big fossil fuel extractive industry and involved in the Mineral Council Australia. I think that John Kunkel was also had something to do with Rio Tinto, which is also crazy that they're our Prime Minister's advisors. The MCA, the Mineral Council of Australia, just does a bunch of really cooked stuff. Basically, it has heaps and heaps and heaps of money, heaps of taxpayer money, and it uses it to further its agenda of justifying extraction and extractive industry. When Kevin Rudd tried to introduce the mining tax, the MCA, I think it was the MCA, maybe it wasn't the MCA, maybe it was a bunch of other companies. I think BHP and Rio Tinto and Glencore were all involved. They paid like $22 million on this like PR advertising campaign to oust Kevin Rudd from Parliament because he, wanted to introduce a mining tax. BHP is co-owned or something, has something to do with the Port Waratah Coal Services part of the Newcastle port. So I think that when I talk about a rigged system, I mean things like that. I mean that there's just so much, you can call it corruption, but I don't think it's corruption if it's intentional. There's so much that goes on that people aren't really, aware of, because it's all covered up, because part of the way that Australia governs and maintains power and justifies its, destructive operations is by controlling the press. The Murdoch monopoly, controls around 60% of Australian newspapers, and that's pretty powerful, I guess, to be controlling what people believe and be controlling what the narrative of truth is. And I think that's why for a really long time people refused to pay attention to the climate crisis being real. I think we've moved past that point a little bit now, but we're still at the point where people think that Australia going to global summits like COP is somehow a way of taking meaningful climate action. It's totally not. COP is a distraction. Australia's participation in COP is a distraction. Australia will, sign on to a really conservative climate target like net zero by 2050, which is already a death sentence. Most of the world's leading climate scientists agree that even aiming for 1.5 degrees of warming is not enough. And the measures that the IPCC report proposed for reaching 1.5 degrees of warming were actually contested by a bunch of leading scientists that said that was more likely to result in between 3 and 4 degrees of warming, which is catastrophic to our life support systems. We're at a really, really, really critical point in history where we need to stop killing the world. Well, we need to stop killing the world about 100 years ago or longer, but we're at this very critical point in time where we can get in the way of Australia and its destructive operations, and we can try and turn this around now, and we can use non-violent blockading, or just use blockading tactics to do that. We can go after things that are important to Australia and use blockade tactics like the thing that I'm using today as a political tool to wield relevant power against Australia and force the action that's required to fight for a livable future. And it's not that much, really. All it is for Australia to stop killing the world. We don't need to continue to dig up the earth and extract and exploit and kill people and burn forests and cut down trees and pollute the oceans. We don't need to do any of that, and Australia's, you know, got this whole facade going where it's telling us that we do, and that we have to do it because of economic growth and because of the economy, and because of things that people don't even really question anymore. Hems Martin said how people can't even fight the government over corona. How are you going to get people to follow you? Yeah, I was talking about the pandemic before and talking about how obvious it was that our government's not fit to deal with a crisis, and the climate crisis is here, and we will feel the effects of it even if you're not yet. And I think that maybe the knowledge that COVID was a practice run is enough to stir some people to action, because I think that a lot of people felt the, you know, bore the brunt of the hardship of the fallout of the pandemic, while big business continued to do whatever it wanted. There's a lot of people that have just joined, so I might just turn the camera around again and show you the setup that we've got going. So there's a monopole on the rail bridge. It's just, a single metal pole that's been tied to the tracks, and on it is a piece of metal platform that I'm standing on at the moment. I might sit down soon because my legs are getting a bit sore, but basically, I've shut down all of the coal chains on this bit of rail that goes into the Newcastle coal port, which is the largest coal port in the world. So one person can effectively shut down a piece of critical infrastructure like the world's biggest coal port and the rail network that leads to the world's biggest coal port, using blockading tactics like this that just require a bit of rope and a bit of knot knowledge. I'm just going to sit down again because, it's not very comfortable, but it's a lot more comfortable than the end of the world will be, I'm sure. So the Newcastle port exports like 165 million tonnes of thermal coal a year. It's owned by Port Waratah Coal Services and the NCIG group, and inside of that there's heaps of other co-ownerships and stuff. I think BHP is one of them. BHP paid less than 10% tax in the last financial year, which I thought was a pretty interesting fact to learn about, considering how much it's actually worth. And then I went a bit further down that rabbit hole and realised that there was heaps of other companies that paid less than 2% tax, like Shell and Caltex and Origin. I think that part of what Australia does when it's trying to maintain control and maintain this facade of, the fact that we all need to get jobs and work until we die, is by fostering this belief that kids on the dole who are trying to do something about their future are your enemy. And that's just totally not true. Your enemy are the people who are digging up the earth and killing sacred stolen land, and paying less than 2% tax per financial year while they're multi-billion-dollar corporations. That's totally your enemy. I think, people believing that, activists who are using direct action against Australia, people who believe that, these kind of people are your enemy, and the way that the press generally spins it and the Murdoch press generally spins it is another tool of repression used by Australia to stifle action on climate. Because they don't want people to get organised, and they don't want people to wake up to the reality that they are killing the world. So that's what we should do. We should wake up to the reality that Australia is killing the world. We should take this situation and this point in history really seriously, and we should consider what the most rational course of action is right now. And I think it is, fighting for a livable future, fighting for the thing that's keeping you alive. taking action that's effective and prioritizing resistance to a nation state that is essentially killing the world. I think that there's a lot of people who care about the planet and care about climate, but the jump to taking direct action is too much for them to get involved with. And I think that's super common, and I think it totally makes sense, because, and this is something I guess you're not really taught about in school or in any of the general kind of like ways of accessing information, and that totally makes sense because Australia controls all of the ways that we generally access information, and Australia would not be facilitating education around how to shut it down. So if you are keen to learn more about how to use blockading tactics as a political tool, go check out the Facebook page. There's a few posts on that kind of stuff, and message the page if you have any questions, because this kind of action is what it's going to take to bring corporate and institutional Australia to its knees. This kind of action is necessary for this current point in history and the current context that we are living in right now. Pretty thirsty again. I'm just always really scared I'm going to drop the phone or something. No, sorry about that, everyone. So next June, Blockade Australia is proposing to shut down Sydney using highly disruptive actions like this. Sydney was the original and is the original city. It's where this project of mass exploitation and extraction and destruction began. So it's got, you know, pretty significant cultural importance there. It's also, you know, the biggest city, functionally the economic capital, and kind of functionally the political capital, even though Canberra exists too. I think Canberra is more of a symbol than of a place where power actually flows through. I think it's, a symbol for power more than a place that has pinch points in, accessible pinch points in the, you know, supply and demand chain that provides Australia with access, economic. Canberra's more of a symbol for power than a place that provides pinch points in the economic and political, material economic and political functioning of Australia. Sorry, I'm pretty tired, so I keep sort of getting my words a bit jumbled, but I'll do my best. Maybe ask me any questions if you're keen to know anything in the comments section, and I'll talk about that instead of rambling on about everything else. Super interested in how they'll get you down. Keep us updated. I'm super interested too. I'm not really sure how they'll get me down, especially considering how muddy the road is on the way in. I'm not really sure what their plan with that will be. There's a lot of puddles, and then there's the Hunter River on that side, so I don't know, maybe I'll be up here forever. Maybe I've done it. Maybe I've stopped Australia. No, probably not. But collectively we can, and all it's going to take is, you know, a bunch of committed people who are willing to learn how to use tools and tactics that materially interfere with and disrupt the political and economic functioning of Australia and go after targets that are important to Australia. Oh, everyone's saying such lovely things. Again. I think, yeah, there's been a very significant history on this continent of people using direct action and blockading tactics to stop extractive, destructive projects from going ahead. Yeah, I know a lot of very inspiring people that have spent most of their lives committing to using direct action to stop destruction at many sites across this continent. And I think the thing that is different about Blockade Australia is that it's been created with the knowledge that there's not enough time to save everything that we care about, because for every project that we create a blockade of or that we try and stop, Australia has thousands and thousands of more resources, and it will just start, you know, if we stop Adani, it'll start another mine down the road. So instead of going after the things that and protecting the things that are important to us, to protect the things that are important to us in the most effective way possible, we need to go after the things that are important to Australia, and we need to shut them down, and we need to do that because otherwise Australia will continue to use and destroy and kill everything that we deem important, and it will destroy all life on this continent and across the globe. Essentially, I think that the basic precepts of society need to shift from being about economic growth and expansion to being about survival. I think that, you know, the colonization of Australia and of a bunch of other places across the world was justified based on this idea that economic growth and progress and technological advancement was the most rational way of moving forward with the human, you know, it was, you know, the way of progressing through society and growing, gaining power and growing. And I think that what's actually the most irrational thing you can do is to destroy the thing that's keeping you alive. And I think that that's what Australia is doing. But I think that it's covering that up with all of these other lies and all of these other ways of, you know, stifling the truth from getting out that Australia is killing the world. I think that Australia's, you know, part of its the things that it has in its arsenal is to be able to control the press and to be able to control the narrative about what truth is and the narrative about what is necessary for society. And I think there's a lot of talk about jobs and growth and economic expansion being the things that are going to provide us with, you know, the best quality of life. And I think that's all bullshit. I think that communities can look after themselves, and we need to learn to look for leadership in the places that it makes sense to, instead of, you know, mindlessly ticking a piece of paper in a ballot box every year and thinking that our lives are just sorted out and that we can go along with our jobs or whatever else we're doing. I recently read a book called Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta, who is a First Nations man who works at Deakin University as a researcher. And yeah, he talks a lot about how, basically about how nothing about how this continent is being run at the moment is sustainable, and how all of our like knowledge systems are so like founded in this idea of exploitation and growth and economic advancement being what's important, because it's so deeply rooted in the like intellectual and political thought of the European culture, I guess, and of the, yeah, that was the colonizing culture. And yeah, in this book they talk a lot about how indigenous knowledge systems and and traditional knowledge is actually, you know, the thing that we need to be able to sustain life on this continent and across the globe. I think that all modern civilizations fail for the same reason that Australia is failing at the moment, and yeah, it's because it doesn't take seriously any kind of relationship with land. All it does is view land and people as resources to use and extract, and that's how Australia was built. That's how Australia was designed. That's what Australia was designed to do when people came to this continent, when Europeans came to this continent. The first fleet was accompanied by 2 military ships of the British Empire, and they saw a bunch of land and people that they could use to grow themselves in the eyes of the global economy. Oh wow, what's going on? Nothing. I'm still up the top of an electrical pylon on beautiful Awabakal and Worimi country in the Hunter Valley, and I'm blocking all coal chains going into and out of the Kooragang Island coal terminal in Newcastle. It's the world's biggest coal port. And I'm the only one here. There were some rail workers that rocked up on the other side of the river, but they have disappeared now. So it's just me and no trains, which is so nice. Sorry. There's an awkward reshuffling on the sit. I don't know if I'm in the middle. It's a bit scary putting my legs over the side, but they're getting a bit sore. Yeah, I've got this really annoying banner next to me. It says Blockade Australia. It's a noun and also an indicative that's telling you to blockade Australia, because we need to use really disruptive tactics like blockading tactics to shut down the things that Australia cares about, and we need to do that as a way of actually being relevant when we do politics, because voting and ticking a piece of paper on the ballot box and pretending like that's it for what our political obligation is just not enough when it comes to the climate crisis, and when it comes to dealing with a rigged system, and a system that's rigged against the interests of acting on climate. Oh, I've just done something where I can't see everyone's lovely comments anymore. That's so annoying. Oh no, I can. So reassuring to see our amazing young folks stepping up. Yeah, I am young. I'm only 20. I think that's young. A lot of my friends are pretty young, actually. And it's pretty scary and sad to see so many of your friends spending all their formative years throwing their bodies in the way of a system that's designed to kill everything in its way and destroy everything in its way. That's a scary thing to think about for too long. And that's also why we need everybody to step up and take seriously the current context that we are living in, and take seriously the current point in history that we're living in, and take seriously what is actually going on in terms of the climate crisis, and in terms of what we need to do to make sure that Australia stops killing the world. I keep saying a lot. I could probably just be quiet instead. Maybe I'll try that. I'm getting a bit thirsty a lot. Maybe I'll just turn the camera around and show you the wetlands again. Yeah, so those electrical pylons over there are the same. There's like a twin 3 over this side, and one of them is the one that I'm connected to. So I'm actually not that far from the actual electricity lines, which I was, yeah, pretty scared about. And if it rains or storms, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I hope that doesn't happen, because it could be bad. I wrote some things down to talk about in case I end up sounding really boring. But I just dropped some of them, so that's good. I think that, yeah, what I was saying before about needing to prioritise effective climate resistance is really relevant, especially for people who are living on this continent and benefiting from it, because we are the beneficiaries of a global system of extraction and exploitation. We are the biggest exporter of coal and gas. Yeah, we live under a government that starts wars in other countries over resources and then turns people away when they come to this continent seeking safety. We all benefit from that. And so if we aren't the people to prioritise, you know, stopping it and prioritise actually getting in the way and materially disrupting the ongoing operations of, yeah, absolute destruction, then who else is going to? I think that, yeah, there's a lot that goes on with or without our tacit consent. And I don't know if it's a, you know, matter of ethics or of political obligation, but I think it's just worth asking that, yeah, if we're not the people who are going to get in the way of Australia, and if we're not the people who are going to prioritise doing that work, who else is going to do it? And if no one does it, Australia will continue to kill the world, and will continue to use and destroy everything in its path on its way to trying to become, I don't know, the richest empire in human history. So if people just tuned in, my name's Zoe, I'm 20. I'm currently blocking all coal chains going into and coming out of the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. I am on a piece of metal, like a platform, like a tree sit, for those of you who know what a tree sit is, about 17 metres up an electrical pylon. It's pretty hard to show you the pylon, so I'll show you the pylons over that side. So there's like 3 of the same looking pylons over here, and I'm on one of them, on this bit of metal platform. And then that platform is kind of tied to the top of that monopole with this bit of rope, and then the rope's going through a D-shackle that this sits on, and that monopole is then tied to the railway line. So basically, if anything happens to the monopole or to any of the bits of rope that the monopole's being tensioned with, yep, this sit will move downwards. Yeah, so I'm taking this action today because the Newcastle coal port is a really significant piece of infrastructure in the eyes of the Australian economy. Oh, hang on. I'll just finish telling everyone who just arrived what's going on, and then I'll update you with the police. Yeah, so this road bridge, the rail bridge, sorry, provides all access to coal trains going into and out of the port. Because the Newcastle coal port is the biggest coal port in the world, it's effectively, I've shut down the biggest and the most important, or at least the most significant bottleneck on the coal network in the world. And I've done that with, yeah, just one person and a bit of rope and metal, essentially. So Think about what hundreds and hundreds of people could do. Yeah, so anyway, the police are here. Whew, I'm feeling a bit nervous about that. It was very nice before, just me and the birds and no trains. And now they're here. And I don't know what their plan is. I don't know how they're going to get me down. I couldn't really pull all of the rope up, so there's a bit of rope hanging down. But someone's tied it to something on the ground, which is no good, or maybe it's just stuck. Anyway, whatever's going on there, it's not very coming loosey, so I just hope they don't try to climb up, really. They probably won't. It's not really climb rope anyway. Keep filming them. Yeah, okay. I'll do that. They're on the other side. It's a bit hard. Oh, no comment. So the cops are here, asking me some questions. Oh, I'm up here. Oh, I'm up here. Yeah, so probably not gonna talk to them that much. I'm not really keen on the cops or what they do. They're gonna try to take the sit down, probably. Yeah, they know my name. It's a bit weird, isn't it? I don't know how they do that. Oh, what's he doing? What's he doing? Oh, what are they doing? That was pretty bad to assume. Are you up there? I'm up here. Thanks, Muggy. Oh, they're going to go have a look at the monopole over there. Yeah, I mean, they could just leave it up, really, and I'd stay here having a nice day, and the coal trains would also stay stopped. But it looks like they have other plans for me and this structure. I was pretty keen to have a snack too. I have a few bananas in my bag that I was keen to eat, but I'm too nervous now because the cops are here. Probably watching the live stream. Yeah, maybe they did. I mean, hopefully they did. They'd learn lots. Oh, there's a few over there too. Oh, this is going to be pretty interesting. And there's another one. A big van. Oh yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes, I guess. I don't really know if they have a plan to get me down yet. For anyone who just tuned in, I'm Zoe. I'm currently blocking all coal trains at the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle. I'm about 20 metres or so, maybe that's a bit generous, up an electrical pylon. I'm on a piece of metal, a metal platform that's been tied to the top of a monopole, which is blocking the rail bridge. There's a lot of police that have just arrived at the moment, probably to try and get me down. Probably to try and get the trains running again, I'd say. Or maybe they haven't had that much of a systemic critique of their profession. Maybe they're just doing their job. That's a chat for another time, probably. Yeah, so the cops are here. There's lots of them. Lots of cars. And there's some other cars over there. Newcastle coal. We know. Anyway, so I'm just going to keep live streaming and filming the police. And if you have any questions, whack them in the comments section. I'm taking this action today, shutting down the rail network around the Port of Newcastle, because the Port of Newcastle is the largest coal port in the world, and it's a piece of infrastructure that Australia cares about heaps. I'm using this action as a way of doing politics. doing politics in a way that materially intervenes in Australia's destructive operations, materially gets in the way of Australia's facilitation and destruction of the world. So, yeah, direct action like this can be used to effectively participate in the political arena in a way that forces Australia to actually respond. Oh, someone's just asking other people do this. Yeah, anyone can learn how to do this. I'm not going to go into details to how I got up here, but I had to do some climbing. I did not know how to climb a year and a half ago, but now I think I'm pretty good at it. Anyone can learn how to do that. Also, you don't need to learn how to climb to use direct action, to use blockading tactics. There's heaps of other things you can do, and there's also heaps of roles that anybody of any age can and should get involved with. Yeah. You know, maybe I set this up by myself, maybe I didn't, but I have a lot of friends that all have various kinds of skills, and I'm sure that you have various kinds of skills too, and there's something for everybody to do with actions like this. There is lots happening in Newcastle at the moment. Thanks, yeah, there is heaps happening in Newcastle at the moment. It's almost like, yeah, maybe people are starting to pay attention to the way that we can use direct action to effectively participate in the political arena and effectively do politics, because it's way more powerful shutting down the world's biggest coal port than ticking a piece of paper on a ballot box. There's no change that's ever going to be effected within the Australian system because it was designed to protect the interests of the political elite, of big business and of extractive industry. So instead, we need to do it ourselves with direct action like this. We need to get in the way of Australia's destruction, and we need to do it in places where it matters. So I think that the world's biggest coal port definitely is a place where it matters. It's definitely a place where Australia is going to pay attention to disruption, because it wants to keep exporting coal all across the world, and it wants to keep digging up the earth until there's nothing left, because that's the only thing that it knows how to do. Maybe Australia isn't actually as malicious or evil. I don't really know what to think about evil as a concept, but the truth is, regardless of what you think of it, that it was designed to view everything on this continent, or the land, or the people, as resources to be used and used and profited from. So whether you think that's good or bad is up to you, but the fact of the matter is that it's driving the climate and ecological collapse. It's destroying people's lives, it's destroying the planet. Extractive, can you explain more about what you mean by extractive industries? Yeah, industries that, like, you know, oh sorry, I'm just trying to listen to the police. I'm trying to remember the name of the road. Oh, this person's got a hat, look at that. I've got a hat too, I just took it off. Extractive industry, I guess, is things like fossil fuel companies and, you know, big coal mines and things that, you know, view the things on this continent, or the things view nature as resources to be exploited and extracted from. So, you know, people cutting down trees to ship overseas is also extractive industry. People digging up the earth to ship overseas is extractive industry. All that kind of stuff. You know. Cool. So yeah, Blockade Australia proposes to shut down Sydney, which is functionally the political and economic capital of Australia, in June 27. We're going to shut down Sydney for a week with actions like this. So to get involved, you should go click on the event link in the comments section. Yeah, centralised disruption of targets that are strategically selected based on what's important to Australia is what's going to take to bring corporate and institutional Australia to its knees, and it's what it's going to take to wield actual relevant political power. Because without actions like this, without actually materially disrupting the flow of the economy or the functioning of the Australian political system, basically this state is just going to keep doing whatever it wants. It's going to keep killing the world, it's going to keep digging up the earth until there's nothing left. It's going to continue killing people on this continent and overseas. And yeah, it's just on this mindless drive for economic expansion. And someone else has just arrived, I think. No, I heard a car driving. Oh no, maybe it's just another police car. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, potentially 7-ish cars, cops here. Drink a little water. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Oh, I'm so nervous and thirsty. I'll do that. I don't know who you are, but thanks for looking out for me. Yeah, you know, someone asked me before how I was feeling. Well, definitely feel a lot more adrenaline going through my body now that the police are here. I was having an okay time just hanging out with the birds in the wetlands, and yeah, I'm also up pretty high, and there's a lot of police standing near the thing that my life is being suspended on, so I'm feeling nervous about that too. But I also feel pretty powerful because I have, I guess, immobilised the rail network of the largest coal port in the world, and there's a coal train just over there that's not moving. I think that's because of me. But yeah, this action's not really about me, and I'd rather be doing a lot of other things than this. But I think that we all need to take seriously the reality of the current situation, and the reality of the fact that we live under a government who is facilitating, or government and, you know, conglomeration of other powerful institutions that are driving climate collapse. We live in a system that was designed to use and destroy and extract everything on this continent for growth and expansion, and we need to get in the way of it. We need to take seriously our political obligation to, yeah, stop the mindless destruction of all life on this continent. I've talked about, yeah, political obligation and stuff heaps. I don't really know what I think about that. I did study, yeah, philosophy for a year and a bit before I realised that any good philosophy student at this point in history would be prioritising the most rational course of action, which is stopping the destruction of the thing that's keeping you alive. Yeah. Maybe I'll turn the camera around again. There's a lot of confused cops and rail workers, I guess. They're all just hanging out. And so are they. That person's got a helmet on. Maybe they'll try to climb up and get me. I've said a lot in this, but I think most of the things that I've been talking about have been mentioned in our Facebook posts on the Blockade Australia Facebook page. So you should go check that out and share them and share the Sydney event and invite your friends. And and spread the word that it's time to get organised against an operation that is dangerous and that is killing the world. Exactly, this is a rational thing to do in the face of ecological collapse. Absolutely, this is, yeah, pretty reasonable action at this point in history. I think that a lot of people on this continent, because of the way that I guess the political system is run, and because of the way that Australia controls the media and stuff, are really, really like politically apathetic. We just don't pay attention to things that's going on unless they affect us. And I think that because a lot of people haven't felt the brunt of the climate collapse yet, it's super easy to ignore, and it's super easy to not do anything about, because people think that it's not going to affect them or something. I was reading this paper a little while ago called The Liberty of the Ancients and the Liberty of the Moderns, and it was written a little bit after the French Revolution, and basically in it was this idea of the dangers of modern liberty and modern politics going too far, and the danger of it is that people become so obsessed with their individual rights and their rights to not participate in politics that they lose sight of what authority is actually doing to them. And I think that's probably a pretty, I don't know, pertinent thing to be thinking about right now. I think that a lot of people on this continent are, absolutely disillusioned by the Australian political system, and not in a way that motivates them to act, in a way that kind of motivates them to just like abstain and focus on other things. And I think that with that comes this really dangerous kind of like political apathy that has sort of permeated everywhere, and I think it means that people are just not paying attention to the things that Australia is doing, because Australia is, a mass exploitation system, and it only takes a little bit of opening your eyes and looking around at what's going on to notice that. Things like knowing that the world's biggest coal port in Newcastle, that, has 10,000 tonne coal trains running through it every 10 minutes or something, is something that Australia cares about heaps. Like, Australia's gas-led plan to recovery is, another thing. Like, it's just like absolute lies, and absolute lies that rely on people not really paying attention to other things that are going on. So we need to start paying attention, and we need to start being smarter than the state, because I think that the state is pretty smart. Whether it's, I don't think there's people in it, but I think that like the system itself is actually really good at kind of protecting itself, and unless we start paying attention and evaluating what it will actually take to shut it down, we have no hope. No hope of any kind of meaningful change. Sorry, that last bit was pretty rambly again. Just feeling a bit nervous with all the police that have arrived. Australia's basically, the climate crisis is a sinking ship, and Australia's driving it, and at the same time our politicians are sort of shuffling around the chairs and making it seem like they're paying attention to what's going on and making it seem like they'll save us, when in actuality they're not. And the only way that we can survive is to jump off the ship and start swimming as fast as we can in the opposite direction. Or turn the ship around, grab the wheel. I'm going to grab the wheel. That's a much better metaphor. I think that grabbing the wheel looks like using direct action, disruptive direct action like this, to wield relevant political power to force Australia to stop its destruction of the world. Whoa, there's a really loud helicopter up there. That metaphor of shuffling chairs around on a sinking ship kind of relates to what I was talking about earlier when I was reading the Newcastle Coal Port website and their declaration of acknowledgement and paying their respects to the traditional owners of the land. I think it's just another way of pretending that you're, dealing with the problem or something. Like, Australia is threatened by the knowledge that people are waking up to the fact that it's a militarised occupation on stolen land. So the way that it deals with that is to respond by making it seem like it's dealing with that problem by acknowledging it, things like acknowledgements or declarations of decolonisation. I think people talk about that kind of stuff all the time, and it's so meaningless to have a declaration of the wish to decolonise while you're digging up the earth on stolen Awabakal and Worimi country. Sorry, the police are talking to me. I'm just going to turn around and film them. Maybe I'll finish that thought later. I'm up here. Well, no comment.
Understand that you're causing a serious risk to the safety of yourself and other people. Considering that you are tied to a power pole and you have a obstruction on a rail line, you understand that you're causing serious danger to yourself and others. Alright? I'm now requesting you to leave this site for the safety of the hospital. You understand that? Are you prepared to leave the site? Alright, and obviously not. Okay, what's going to happen now is if you're not showing any willingness to assist police, you're going to have rescue squad come in and you'll be removed from the pole at some stage. Do you understand that? Alright, if you need anything between now and then in regards to your health and welfare, please let us know. Until then, if you wish to change your mind again and come down, just let us know. Alright? Thank you, Zoe. Zoe, do you prefer to be called Zoe or Madeline? What do you prefer? Zoe? So you obviously know the road, no pun intended. So rescue's going to come in, they're going to cut you down anyway, you know that. So get you a bit of glory and we'll go from there, right?
Oh no, there's definitely not about glory. I don't know why they thought I was called Madeline.
Alright, Zoe, just one more thing I want you to understand at the moment, that the offence that you're causing, committee has caused an interruption to the operation of a major company causing major financial loss. Do you understand that? Again, I'm asking you one more time to formally ask you to come down. Are you prepared to do that?
Oh, there's some pretty interesting conversations going on. They're trying to work out, well, how I set up the pole by myself. Oh, they were trying to be funny. Said that I know the ropes. Good one. Yeah, I'm not really sure how they're planning on getting up here. I don't know if they're going to get a cherry picker or if they are planning on climbing up. But I will keep you updated. I think I might eat some food now. So I might film that, or I might not. I can keep asking me any questions in the comments if there's anything in my ramblings that I can, I don't know, elaborate on a bit more. So, for people who just joined, my name's Zoe. I'm currently blocking all coal trains going into and out of the Newcastle coal port, which is the largest coal port in the world. I'm on a electrical pylon on a metal platform that looks like the pylons over on that side of the river. There's identical ones on this side, and I'm sitting on one of those. So the pylon, there's a bit of a rope that's going through a D-shackle to a metal platform, and then this bit of rope that you can see on the camera now is tied to the top of a monopole on the rail bridge, and that monopole is tied to the tracks. That rail bridge is the most significant economic bottleneck of the coal network across the world, because Newcastle coal port is the world's biggest coal port. Shutting down accessible points in the supply and demand chain like this gives us the opportunity to wield real power against Australia and against Australia's destruction of the world and Australia's facilitation of climate collapse. So I don't really know how long I've been up here still, but yesterday there was an action under Blockade Australia. My friend shut down the rail network for about 4 hours. So it doesn't actually take very many people to immobilise a massive piece of critical infrastructure. It just takes the people who recognise the reality of the situation that we're facing and the severity of the situation that we're taking and what appropriate action looks like. And this is appropriate action. So if you'd like to be involved, Blockade Australia is proposing to shut down Sydney, which is the economic and political capital, functionally the political capital of Australia, in June next year. So tell your friends, bring them along, and click going on the Facebook page to get involved. There'll be more info a little bit later in the year about how you can get involved with that. But we need to be smarter than the system, and being smarter than the system means thinking about what is important to Australia and then going to those targets and using highly disruptive action to shut them down. That's what effective engagement in the political arena looks like, not voting on a bit of paper in a ballot box or, other traditional campaigning methods that might have worked in the past but definitely don't work anymore against a system that was designed to exploit and extract and use until there's nothing left. Someone said that the live stream's been going for nearly 2 hours. No wonder I'm so hungry for a banana. Sorry. And someone asked me what the cops said. They said that they asked me to come down a lot, and I thought my name might have been Madeline. Oh, look at them all sitting over there. And They also said that I was being charged with causing danger to myself and others. They were pretty vague on what my charges were. I don't think they'd know how to read them out properly or something. And also causing financial loss to a big business. Oh yeah? So in fact they're watching the live stream too! That's pretty cool. Well, it's not, but maybe I've heard something and learned something today. Maybe I can think a bit more about what their role might be in the climate fight, and, you know, what would it look like if the cops just decided to leave me up here, hey? And decided to let the piece of structure that's blocking the rail stay there indefinitely. I think at this moment in time, yeah, the cops have a significant amount of power, and I'm just kind of hoping they're listening to me when I'm saying this. I think it'd be pretty interesting if they decided to leave me up here and decided that, you know, stopping coal chains was actually probably more important than arresting a young feral who probably could think of better ways to spend their Tuesday morning. I do have snacks, thank you. Thanks, Jara. I don't know what to do with my banana peel now. I don't know if they'll fine me for littering if I drop it. I probably won't drop it. I might just leave it here. I might just keep filming all the rail workers over there. I don't really know what they're all doing. Oh, I guess they have nothing to do because all the trains have stopped, maybe. So maybe they're just watching the show. Someone asked what I meant about extractive industry before, and I was talking about, you know, industries that view nature as things to extract and exploit and profit off. But maybe I'll talk a bit more about how things like that are the role that extractive industry plays in driving the climate collapse and stuff. I think that in like 1977 or something, or maybe it was before that, BP and a bunch of other oil companies knew about what they were doing and knew the impacts that they were having on the climate and ecological crisis, or on I guess climate change. Maybe it wasn't even being termed the climate and ecological crisis yet. And then a few years later they obviously kept doing what they were doing because they were making heaps of money from it. And yeah, a few years later they coined the term carbon footprint, and basically ran the best and most successful PR scheme in all of time ever, that basically put the onus of like climate responsibility back onto the individuals, and, you know, kept extracting and digging up the earth and killing people who were resisting that all across the globe, and destroying sacred land all across the globe, while people were really worried about reducing the emissions footprint and having 4-minute showers and, I don't know, cycling to the shops instead of walking. I think that, like, that's a big myth that's been, you know, perpetuated by the people who are driving climate collapse, because it lets them continue doing what they're doing. If people are really sidetracked by trying to reduce their own emissions and trying to take action on climate that isn't actually that effective, as long as people are really sidetracked doing that, big business can continue to destroy the world. Oh, it takes so many people to get me down, and only one person to block the world's biggest coal port. So I know what a more effective use of my time is. I don't know about you guys. climate criminals equals government equals media equals big business equals capitalism. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I haven't really used the word capitalism because I think it confuses people sometimes. We are all living under, global late-stage capitalism. But that's just a word. And maybe a more descriptive word is, this idea that Australia is a mass exploitation project. Because I think that's what it is. But yeah, built into capitalism is this idea of a drive for economic growth above all else, and oh, the banner's coming so loose. I'm not sure if I can read it. Oh, someone's just asked me if I can explain how the rail blockade works functionally. How am I holding up the chains? Yeah, sorry, that's definitely more. Sorry, I keep losing track of what I'm saying. Yeah, so at the moment I am on a piece of metal platform on the top of about 20 meters up an electrical pylon. The electrical pylon looks like the ones over there. There's a similar set on this side, and I'm on a piece of metal platform that's on a bit of rope pulled through a D-shackle, and that bit of rope then goes all the way down onto the top of that monopole on the rail line, and the monopole is being tied to the rail tracks. So basically, yeah, I'm sitting on the sit and my life is suspended on this line, and that's what's holding up the chains at the moment, is the fear of them running into the pole and me falling to the ground. Which is, I think, what makes it, I don't know, such a scary and empowering feeling to know that, I don't know, one person can effectively immobilise the rail network outside the world's biggest coal port, but to do that we have to do some pretty dangerous and scary things. So yeah, feel vulnerable and powerful at the same time. Also, I think it's pretty interesting to know that the rail bridge here provides all access to the coal trains going into and coming out of the Kooragang Island terminals. Those terminals collectively export around 165 million tonnes of coal a year, and because the Newcastle port is the world's biggest coal port, I guess that functionally makes the rail bridge that provides access one of the most significant bottlenecks of the coal network in the world. Hope that answered your question, whoever asked how I'm holding up the trains. There's a train over there, you can see. One stopped, at least. And I'd expect, they're all kind of backed up around and about, because normally there's one that like runs through here every 10 minutes or so, I think. Oh, just ruined my banner. That's no good. Oh, that's not good at all. That's right. Also, someone's just arrived with a ladder. I don't know if it's going to be long enough. Oh, I don't know what their plan is at all. I'm definitely not climbing down the ladder, so I don't know what they're planning to do with that. Oh, it's a bit cold up here. Been sitting still for a long time. So there's around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people over that side in high vis, all rail workers, I think. I don't really know, actually. And then there's a bunch of cop cars here and some other people in helmets and stuff. Whew. Yeah. Maybe I'm going to put my jacket on. I'm a little bit cold. I might just put the phone down for that, so you'll have a nice view of the sky or the ground. Maybe the sky. There you go. Oh, they're all watching me get changed. How nice is that? I really got nothing better to do. Maybe they like it. I don't do any work. I think this myth that we need to work for such extended periods of time is another lie that, you know, systems like Australia perpetuate so that they can continue doing whatever they want while you're so distracted by, I don't know, sitting in an office for hours a day or driving a coal train for hours a day. And what you really want to be doing is, like, I don't know, hanging out with the people you like and stuff. Yeah, we really don't need to do as much work as we do to... Oh, I've messed up this jacket so badly. Oh, it's all happening. Don't know what's going on here. They're all laughing at me putting my jacket on. That's alright. Maybe I'll just take it off. Make it look like I was on purpose. Yeah, the amount of labour that we do for the amount of labour that we need to do is, yeah, really out of whack and pretty disproportionate. I feel like we create jobs just to kind of like numb people's brains. And because we're all so bought into this illusion that you have to get a job and then work until you die or something. Like, there's just so many things that I can think about that are totally irrelevant to, like, what people probably actually want to be doing or what we actually probably need to be doing. Yeah, like driving coal trains, for example. I don't think that's something that anybody needs to do, and there's probably heaps of other ways that people who do drive coal trains would like to spend their time, but you know, I think that thinking about what you're doing as just a job or as something that you don't really have a choice in is kind of, I guess to a certain extent, buying into the kind of facade that Australia's created, that allows it to continue to do whatever it wants while we're too distracted by everything else going on. I don't think that's, you know, broadly speaking true. I think that in Australia a lot of the kind of like, yeah, I guess middle class is dangerously disillusioned, and I think a lot of people could have a lot more capacity to stand up for and fight for what's right in terms of enacting political change a lot more fiercely than they think that they can. I think, yeah, obviously I think people are trapped within this system of exploitation, but also people are distracted and under the illusion that they're entirely stuck within the system of exploitation. And it's a pretty hard thing stepping outside of that. It's a pretty hard thing, you know, choosing to, I don't know, dedicate your life to using direct action against Australia, knowing that you're going to face heaps of repercussions and stuff. But we need more people to do it, so it's not just, you know, a few people flogging themselves hopelessly in the climate fight. I look like a pirate in a crow's nest. Thank you. Yeah, I have this really cool hat bling. Makes me feel pretty piratey. Oh, there's so many ladders going on. It's really wild. Oh, they've got binoculars and everything. It's pretty crazy. Oh, they're trying to work out what's going on with my ropes. Don't know if they will be able to do that. Don't know if I know what's going on with my ropes. They're a bit tangly. Anyway. This is the second awesome action this week, stopping coal chains, blockading the coal port. Yeah, there's another action on the Facebook page you can check out by Wilka Karakuda, who is a Jambaran Wangan and Jungalingu man who took action yesterday in solidarity with Worimi and Awabakal people and to fight against the Australian government. And fight against Australia, the government, and all the other powerful institutions that govern power on this continent, destroying land that doesn't belong to them and has never belonged to them. Do you think they have a ladder long enough to reach you? Oh, yeah, they just rocked up with one actually when I turned around. Look at this. That's crazy. Are they going to glue them all together though? I don't know what their plan is. Well, everyone's watching the show. It's good to know. Good to feel this interesting. I'm pretty, I don't know about like being this much of the center of attention. They're all sort of just standing there in different coloured suits watching me talking. But I think they're also listening to me talking down there. Or maybe they can hear me. No, I think they've got the live stream up. That's pretty interesting. Oh, a bucket hat. I love bucket hats. Alright. Did not know it would take this many people to deal with this. Hey everyone who has just joined. My name's Zoe. I'm currently blocking all coal chains on the coal network near the Newcastle coal port, which is the largest coal port in the world. I'm on a tree sit that's been tied to an electrical pylon. That's this bit of rope is connected to a sit. It's a bit hard to show you. This sit's tied to one of those pylons on the other side. There's a similar set on this side, and the sit's tied to the top of that monopole, which is then tied to the rail tracks. And basically, if someone interferes with those ropes or the monopole, the sit will move downwards, and I will deal with that problem if it happens. I'm taking this action today as part of Blockade Australia. I'm targeting the Newcastle coal port under Blockade Australia because it's a piece of infrastructure that is key to the Australian economy. It's key to the economic functioning of Australia, and it's only with actions like this that actually generate political and economic turmoil that we have a chance of wielding any kind of relevant leveraging power against Australia. And we need to do that because Australia's killing the world. Australia's destroying land and culture and killing people, and it will continue to do that until we stop it. So today I'm stopping it, and I invite you all to like the Facebook page and come to Sydney in June, on June 27th, because we're gonna go and shut down Sydney. Blockade Australia's gonna shut down Sydney as part of because Sydney's the economic and political capital of Australia, and it's a site that if we target it, Australia's forced to respond. Sorry, I don't know what to do with all my ropes on the sun. Direct action like this has a super long history on this continent. There's been a really long history of blockading tactics being used to stop destructive projects in different places across the continent and across history. And Blockade Australia proposes to use those tools and tactics and centralise them around targets that are important to the functioning of Australia. So I guess, yeah, it's been built with the understanding that Australia, there's not enough time to protect everything that we care about, because Australia is killing the world really rapidly. You know, there's like 10,000 ton coal trains that roll through here every 10 minutes. There's not enough time for us to just protect the things that are important to us. We have to go after what's important to the Australian state and what's important to the thing that is, and the system that is driving the global climate and ecological collapse. We need to use disruptive actions as a political tool to, I guess, meaningfully engage and meaningfully force and leverage change, because there's going to be no change from within a system that was designed to extract and exploit. There's literally no way of fighting for climate justice or any kind of meaningful climate action within the Australian system, because the Australian system was built to protect the people that benefit from climate action. Australia was built as a militarised resource extraction site. It's been sustaining illegal occupation on stolen land for over 250 years, and it's not going anywhere unless we get in the way of it and shut it down. So that's what I'm doing today. Shut down the world's biggest coal port with one person and a bit of poly rope and metal poles. And you can also shut down Australia where it matters too, by clicking the Sydney link and getting involved there. Getting involved there. We're gonna shut down Australia's biggest city and go after the things that are important to Australia, and essentially use blockading tactics as a political tool, because voting doesn't work, petitioning doesn't work, holding banners on the side of the road doesn't work. The only thing that does work... Oh, they're talking to me again. Don't know if I should answer this. Yep, I'm double vaxxed. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have answered that. I didn't really want to get another COVID fine, but anyway. Yeah. It's time to take the climate fight away from what's important. It's time to take the climate fight to the places that it matters, and to the places that are important to Australia, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to leverage any kind of decision-making power away from the people who are currently driving this disaster. It's the only way to materially disrupt the operations that are driving the destruction of the world and all the people on it. Sorry, my voice is a bit cracky again. I'm just going to have another little sip of water while the cops continue to work out what to do. Maybe I'll turn it around so you can see them now, this time. Oh, I don't know how to turn it around. Oh yeah, we'll do that. There you go. Oh, there they are, on the ground. It's not, well, they're trying to work out what the knots are. Good luck. Hydrate. Aw, thanks, mate. I don't know how long I've been up here. Maybe 2.5 hours, as a guess. Maybe a bit more. I think the live stream's been going for 2.5 hours. Yeah, pretty cool to know that one person can use pretty simple tactics to shut down a piece of rail infrastructure for 2.5 hours. There was an action yesterday where someone used a tripod to shut down the rail network for 4 hours. Yeah, I think that's the thing about using direct action as a political tool. You don't need thousands of people to do it. You need a critical mass of people who are dedicated and people who recognise the severity of the crisis that we're in. who want to meaningfully engage in politics and meaningfully shut down Australia and its destruction of the world. Yeah, if one person can shut down the world's biggest coal port for a couple of hours, think about what 100 people can do. Think about what 100 people can do in Sydney, the biggest city, and the thing that matters to Australia the most. Yeah, it's, you know, definitely something to prioritize in your life if you can understand the severity of the situation that we're in and recognize, I guess, and acknowledge what it's going to take to force any kind of change. I think that prioritising effective resistance to climate inaction and effective resistance to Australia's destruction of the world is, probably what you need to be doing and think about doing. And Blockade Australia is an organised response to Australia's facilitation of the climate collapse. It's a way for you to get involved and for you to, help be part of an organised opposition to this exploitation project that's been, facilitating mindless destruction of land and beautiful country and ocean and sky and wildlife and flora and fauna and people and culture since it started over 250 years ago. Do you use electricity? Stop wasting everyone's time. Oh, Sam. No, maybe I won't talk about how much electricity I have or haven't been using. It's not that interesting. The sun's coming out now, so it's a bit warmer, which is pretty nice. I was a bit worried that it might rain or storm while I was up an electrical pylon. That was making me feel a bit nervous. But it's not raining or storming, which is pretty good. And all the cops are still on the ground looking up at me. There's my banana peel. Move that out of the way. Yeah, alright. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 police cars here now, and one's a big rescue truck with a really, really long ladder on it. I'm still not sure if the ladder's going to actually be long enough to get up here, and I'm not sure what their plan is once they do get up here to get me down. But I guess maybe we'll see what happens when they get up here, and I'll keep you updated as best as I can. Do I use science? Do I do science? Oh, I don't know what you mean by that. I read science. I was studying at a university, and then I stopped because I realized what was actually important and how serious this problem was and what a solution requires, and I decided to prioritize it for a bit. So that's what I'm doing. But I do like science, especially when, well, I don't know, I think science is, really useful, but also Australia doesn't listen to science. The IPCC report, basically announced a code red for humanity, and Australia's still decided to go forward with a gas-led recovery and net zero emissions by 2050 target, which is so conservative. And any kind of climate science that you read proves that it's just driving us further and further over a cliff that we're already teetering on. So I think that the climate and ecological crisis is not a problem for science. I think it's a problem for politics, and I think that using direct action like this is a way of building power towards, at least the direction of a solution, the direction of an opposition, an organised opposition to Australia and its destructive enterprises. That's a pretty long-winded answer to your question. I've asked it. But I don't know, I'm feeling pretty hard to focus on my words right now. So instead, I'm going to show you what these people are doing over near the monopole. They are looking at it, and I don't know, everyone's taking a lot of photos. Question back to Sam. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, sorry, Angie. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing. Looks like they might try to climb up the signal ladder to have a look at the knot or something. Oh, here we go. What's this? I don't know. Some kind of cherry picker maybe. Oh, no good. Imagine if I don't know, emergency services just decided that the real emergency was the climate and ecological crisis and decided to leave me up here. And, you know, there'd be no cold chains running for days and days if people could send up water and stuff. Alright, I don't know what's going on. Oh, some more people. Hello. What really is it? How many climate deniers does it take to change a light bulb situation going on over here? No, maybe that's not fair. Maybe they are just doing their job. How many cops does it take to get a Zoe down? Yeah, good question. Not sure yet. How many tips on how we can support you guys to keep doing this awesome work? I think that sharing this live stream and sharing our other posts on Facebook and boosting the Facebook event for Sydney at this point is a really great idea. And you know, we have banners and posters and stickers for Sydney, and doing that kind of traditional, you know, event promo to get the word out is a really good idea. And then if you want to talk to people about why they should prioritise effective resistance to Australia's climate destruction in person, I think that's, you know, another really awesome way of keeping people engaged and spreading the word about what we're trying to do and why this Blockade Australia strategy is different to other, you know, climate groups. I think that's a pretty good start. I think there's also a donate button if you're keen to donate or whatever. A lot of people doing this kind of work don't have time to have a job, which is a shame. Some people like having jobs. I have had jobs in the past. I have yeah, I don't know, maybe this is my job. What's a job? Who knows? These people have jobs. Look at them go. They've spent so many hours this morning trying to problem solve how to get me down, and I still don't think they have a solution. Sounds like you have COVID. Nah, I think I've just been talking for ages. Which is pretty cool, really. I'm, yeah, definitely feeling a bit tired, but it's pretty cool to know that one person can shut down the rail network around the world's biggest coal port for, you know, a couple of hours. It's pretty cool to think about. Pretty scary to think about. Oh, what's that? The train made a noise. Oh, I was about to say sorry, but not really. I think you could probably just stop. Don't know what's happening with the train or how long it's been there. Sal says, humming soothes a tired throat. Oh, I'm a bit too self-conscious to hum on camera though, I think. But thank you. For everyone who just joined, my name's Zoe. I'm currently blocking all of the coal trains going into and out of the Newcastle coal port, which is the world's largest coal port. I'm on a tree sit platform on an electrical pylon about 20 metres in the air, and the tree sit is tied to a monopole on the rail bridge. And you can see heaps of people standing and looking at the pole right now. There's quite a few cops and other people in assorted coloured uniforms that have been here for a while trying to get me down, and yeah. So I'm taking this action as part of Blockade Australia, which is an organising network devoted to using direct action like this to disrupt targets that are critical to the functioning of Australia's economic and political systems. I think it might be pretty confusing. I've talked about Australia a lot. I think I've said that word probably more than any other word on this live stream. And when I talk about Australia, I don't mean the continent itself. I don't mean the culture I think a lot of people associate of like mateship or camaraderie. I don't mean any of the nice cultural stereotypes that people might associate with the word, like barbecues or thongs or going to the beach. I mean the conglomeration of powerful institutions that govern power on this continent that are driving us towards absolute climate destruction. Australia, or the Australia I mean when I'm talking about it, is a collection of big business and extractive industry and media monopoly and parliament that's been, collectively sustaining illegal occupation, militarised illegal occupation on stolen land for over 250 years. That same Australia that's been waging a brutal war against First Nations people since it started is the same Australia that thinks it has the right to use and destroy everything on this continent, and it's the same Australia that digs up the earth and cuts down the forests and empties the ocean and pollutes the sky. It's the same Australia that is driving us towards climate collapse. And Australia will continue doing everything in its power to block meaningful climate action. We've seen that with global summits. We've seen the way that Australia participates in things like COP, what it did with the Kyoto Protocol and manipulated credits that tried to cheat its way out of the Paris Agreement. Current COP, Australia might announce a commitment to net zero emissions by 2050, which is already a super conservative climate goal. But if Australia doesn't, uphold those commitments, it'll find a way around it, and there'll be no consequences for that. The rules and laws that govern power on this continent were written to protect the institutions like, big business and extractive industry and parliament. So there can be no change from within a system that is inherently rigged against climate action. Australia was built as a resource extraction project. When the British Empire came here, they were looking for land to use and exploit to, after landing in Sydney, the kind of like political elite, the ruling class, encouraged other settlers and other wealthy people to land, and they assigned them convicts and basically said, turn all this land into whatever you need to do to grow Australia as a resource hub in the eyes of the global economy. And in doing that, Australia caused masses of colonial violence against First Peoples, land and people and culture. And that same Australia is the same Australia that designs the voting system. It's the same Australia that asks you to vote your way to a climate solution. Voting doesn't work. Ticking a piece of paper on a ballot box is never going to enact any kind of change in a system that's been designed to extract and exploit until there's nothing left. Australia only cares about money. Australia's going to keep doing whatever it wants until an organised opposition gets in its way. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm using blockading tactics, a pylon sit to a monopole, as a political tool of intervening in Australia's destruction. This feels way more powerful than voting. It's obviously a lot scarier and more time consuming than voting too, but I think that's the point. It's not easy to resist a government and to resist a system that's designed as a mass exploitation project. It's not easy, but unless we get organised against Australia's destruction, it's going to continue to kill the world. Oh, the cops are talking to me again, so I might just turn around again. And something's going on, but I can't really see what's going on. Oh, they're going to ask me to come down. They're all talking.
Alright Zoe, we're going to give you another opportunity to come down. I have a representative from ARTC, which is the Rail Corporation. He's going to talk to you for a moment, and if you don't comply with what he's asking you, you may ask police assistance. Do you understand that?
You are also being recorded, Zoe, okay?
I'm Jason Gibson from ARTC, Area Manager. At present, your presence here is causing serious risk, and so to your own safety and that of others. And as such, it's unsafe for us to continue our business activity while you're in this location. You understand you're currently interrupting our business operations by offending the incoming trains and security. You understand that interrupting those operations may cause the company to financial loss. As the representative, I'm formally requesting you to leave the premises. If I was to do so, I'll ask the police for assistance. You understand? Alright Zoe, you've been spoken to by Mr. Dibble and you've not indicated that you're going to comply with his request to come down. As such, he's now asked me, as a police officer, to give him assistance in regards to getting you off that structure. Alright. So I'm just going to say this again to you, as I said earlier. I'm Chief Inspector News from Newcastle Police District. I've just heard you spoken to by Mr. Dibble from the ARTC, who has now asked for my assistance in having you leave this site. Do you understand that your presence here is causing a serious risk to the safety of others? And you might also consider the safety of yourself in this state. Do you understand that? You understand that you are interrupting the business activities of the rail system here and causing a cost to the rail system and the coal companies. Do you understand that? I'm now requesting you to leave this site by the safety group. I must warn you that failing to leave and remaining on the site may constitute an offence. Do you understand that? Right, thank you Zoe. The fact that you're not replying to me, I'm going to take it that you're not going to comply. I'm now going to have the police from the New South Wales Police Rescue Squad to remove you from the site. Do you understand? Okay, please also, just for your safety and the safety of the police, we are working at heights. There is a potential danger, so when the police come up to see you up there, I'll ask them to cooperate with them and don't cause any struggle or any fight. Do you understand that? Just for your safety now. Right, thank you Zoe.
Alright, so they've just said a bunch of stuff about me costing the rail company a bunch of money, and that someone's gonna climb up and get me down. Well, they said someone's gonna climb up. I still don't know what their plan is to get me down. Yeah, they said that I'll be arrested unless I come down. I think I probably will be arrested if I climb down anyway. With trespass. I also can't climb down because I'm on this sit blocking the coal chains, and if I climb down they'd start running again. Whoa, 100 people watching. That's so cool. Everyone who's watching, you should go like our Sydney event and join us in Sydney where we can use more highly disruptive actions like this to shut down Australia. At its heart, Sydney was the original colony. Sydney is the original city. It has so much cultural significance as well as real economic and political significance to Australia. And it's only by, you know, analysing the Australian system and going after the things that are important to it that we can be really effective in wielding relevant political power in the eyes of the state. Police reminding everyone they serve property and profits, not people. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, the institution of the police is an arm of the state that's used to protect the interests of the ruling class and of, yeah, the same ruling class that was in place when Australia began. The big business and political elites and parliament that want to keep using everything on this continent and turning it into money. So yeah, police are just following the rules that they have written out for them to protect private property and private wealth, and do not protect the interests of the people or the interests of the planet or the interests of a livable future. Alright, maybe I'll turn this around again. So they're getting some kind of someone up here, cherry picker looking thing. I'm really surprised they were able to get it in on the road. The road's pretty muddy. And there's somebody with a big helmet on that's gonna come up here soon, I think. So for people who just joined, my name's Zoe. I'm at the Port of Newcastle on Awabakal and Worimi country, on stolen land. People whose sovereignty was never ceded. And I'm blocking all coal chains going into and out of the Port of Newcastle. I'm on a tree sit platform that's been tensioned to a monopole on the rail tracks. And anyone interfering with the monopole or the ropes that tie it down to the rail will cause the sit to fall. Someone just said that I see that you're drinking from a plastic water bottle. Yeah, I am. I actually found it in the bin, in the Coles bin. There was heaps in a big plastic wrapped up box. So yeah, I don't know why Coles are throwing out water that's still in date and in packaging, but there's heaps of stuff that happens within this system that, you know, fabricates the illusion of scarcity to keep us all distracted from what's really going on, which is Australia's destruction of the planet. You know, if we're all too busy fighting amongst ourselves and too busy worrying that we won't be able to, I don't know, buy enough toilet paper or whatever during the pandemic. Yeah, while we worry about that, Australia continues to dig up the earth, shuffle corrupt money across stolen land and offshore, and kill the world, essentially. So yeah, taking this action today under Blockade Australia, an organising network that is proposing to use blockading tactics to wield relevant political power in the eyes of Australia. So they've shut down the Port of Newcastle, not just because the Port of Newcastle is a land desecrating operation that's been destroying the lives and land and culture of Awabakal and Worimi people for over 250 years, but also because it's a target that is important to Australia, and shutting it down forces Australia to respond, forces Australia to pay attention, and, you know, really leverages power into the hands of the people doing the disruption, which I guess is me, it's Blockade Australia. Yeah, basically, I just want Australia to stop killing the world. I don't think it's that hard of a demand. I don't think we need to dig up the earth until there's nothing left. I think that's a lie, and I don't think it takes too much thinking outside of the framework that we've been taught to realise that. I'm just going to turn the camera around now. Sorry, this big banner's still in the way, but at least they can all see it. It says Blockade Australia. It's a noun and also an indicative, inviting you to also blockade Australia, because we need to blockade Australia to wield political power and to get in the way of Australia's destruction. So they're just down there hanging out. I don't really know what's going on. Yeah, I guess when they come up they might take my phone off me. So maybe I'll try finish the live stream before then and upload it. See if I stop it, that's what's happening. Whoa, it's pretty big. Give us a tour of the area. Oh yeah? Alright, so the monopole's over there, and that rail bridge brings in all of the coal to the two terminals of Kooragang Island. Collectively they export about 165 million tonnes of coal. They're owned by Newcastle Coal Infrastructure Group and the Port Waratah Coal Services. And that rail bridge that I'm currently shutting down using blockading tactics is effectively the most significant rail bridge, bottleneck in the supply and demand chain of the coal network in the globe, because the Newcastle port is the biggest coal port.
Hello Zoe, I'm Senior Constable Daniel Gosden from Police Rescue. Just coming up here to see if you're willing to just hop in the basket here and come down with us. Otherwise we'll be required to take everything down and bring you down with us. Are you able to cooperate with us and just jump in the basket? Am I getting your name right, Zoe? No? You're going to come up a bit closer. Yeah, just jump it in.
Yeah, so obviously if I get removed from this sit, the coal chains are going to start running again, and Australia will be back to functioning as usual, driving us over another tipping point in the climate and ecological emergency.
Start off with. I'm going to put that in a safe spot, okay?